My hands trembled as I stared at the white envelope on my desk. I already knew what it said before I tore it open. The words blurred together, but certain phrases cut through like broken glass. Formal query for negligence, failure to follow safety procedures, disciplinary action pending. I read it again, slower this time, letting each word sink into my chest like a stone dropping into deep water. 15 years. 847 hours of unpaid overtime. 13 middle-of-the-night emergency calls. 5 Christmas days spent fixing breakdowns while my children opened presents without me. And now this. A query letter blaming me for what happened to Marco. My throat tightened. I could still hear his scream echoing in my head, still see the blood pooling under Machine 7, still feel the weight of knowing I had warned them. I had begged them. But what the company didn't know was this. I had kept receipts. Every single one. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. My heart pounded, but my hands had stopped shaking. Something inside me had shifted.
Something permanent.
They wanted to make me the sacrifice, but I refused to burn. Let me take you back to the beginning, to show you who I was before everything changed. My name is Kunle Adeyemi. I'm 37 years old, and for 15 years, I worked as a senior technician at Maxfield Manufacturing in Lagos. Everyone called me Mr. Reliable. Not because I liked the nickname, but because I showed up. Every single time. When Machine 3 broke down at 2 in the morning, they called me. When the conveyor belt jammed during peak production, they called me. When the generators failed during a storm, they called me. I was always there. My wife, Beezy, used to pack food for me at 11 at night, her eyes heavy with worry. "They're using you," she would say softly. "You give them everything, and they give you nothing back." I would kiss her forehead and tell her it would pay off. That loyalty mattered. That hard work was always rewarded. I believed that for 15 years. I believed it with my whole heart. Until the day I realized I had been believing a lie. The unpaid overtime started small. An extra hour here, 2 hours there. "We're short-staffed this week, Kunle. Can you stay a bit longer?" they would ask. I always said yes. Then it became regular. Expected. Required. I kept track at first, thinking they would compensate me eventually. I wrote down every hour in a small notebook I kept in my locker. 847 hours over 5 years. At 3,000 naira per hour, that was 2,541,000 naira they owed me. Money that could have paid for my daughter's school fees. Money that could have fixed the leak in our roof. Money that could have given my family a better life. But I told myself it was an investment. That management would notice. That promotions came to those who sacrificed. I was wrong. 3 years ago, I applied for a supervisor position. My manager, Mr. Okonkwo, smiled at me in that rehearsed way and said, "You're valuable to us right where you are, Kunle. Just keep up the loyalty." I kept waiting. The promotion never came. Instead, they hired a man named Chijioke. He was 28, fresh from university, and had never worked a day on a factory floor. But he had a degree in business administration and spoke English with a British accent. Within 6 months, Chijioke was my supervisor. He would walk past me while I was elbow-deep in machinery, holding his phone, barking orders he didn't understand. "Speed it up, Kunle," he would say. "We have quotas to meet." I bit my tongue and worked faster. The other technicians noticed. Emeka, who worked beside me for 10 years, pulled me aside one day. "Why do you let them treat you like this?" he asked. I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but I was too ashamed to say it out loud.
I needed the job.
I had 3 children, a wife, and aging parents who depended on me. So I swallowed my pride and kept working. But something was building inside me. A pressure I couldn't name. Like a machine running too hot, too long, without maintenance. It was March when I first noticed something wrong with Machine 7. I was doing my routine inspection when I heard it, a grinding sound that shouldn't be there. The gears were misaligned. The safety guard was loose. The metal vibrated in a way that made my stomach turn. I stopped production immediately and wrote a report. I documented everything with photographs and measurements. I marked it urgent and submitted it to Chijioke. 2 days later, he called me into his office. "Kunle, we reviewed your report about Machine 7, he said, not looking up from his computer. "Repairs are expensive right now. We'll schedule maintenance next quarter." "Next quarter?" I repeated. "Sir, that machine is dangerous. Someone could get hurt." He finally looked at me. His expression was cold. "Are you questioning my decision?"
No, sir.
"I'm just concerned about safety." "Then do your job and let me do mine," he snapped. "We have production targets to meet. The machine stays operational." I left his office with a knot in my stomach. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that loose guard, hearing that grinding sound. The next week, I submitted another report. This time, I marked it critical. I included technical specifications, safety regulations, and a timeline of deterioration. The response came back in an email. Noted. Will address when budget allows. I printed the email and added it to my growing file. By the third week, the grinding had gotten worse. Other technicians noticed it too. Emeka stood beside me one afternoon, listening to Machine 7 run, and shook his head. "That thing is going to kill someone," he said quietly. I submitted a third report. This time, I hand-delivered it to Mr. Okonkwo himself, the plant manager. He barely glanced at it. "Kunle, I appreciate your diligence, but we have priorities. Machine 7 is still functional. We'll handle it during the next maintenance cycle." "When is that?" I asked. "When we can afford it," he replied. I stood there, holding my documentation, feeling like I was shouting into a void. "Sir, with respect, this isn't about money. This is about someone's life." His eyes hardened. "Everything is about money, Kunle. The sooner you learn that, the better." That conversation haunted me. I went home that night and told Beezy everything. She held my hand across the kitchen table, her eyes full of concern. "You've done what you can," she said. "You've warned them. If they won't listen, that's not your fault." But it felt like my fault. I knew that machine was dangerous. I knew someone could get hurt. And I knew management didn't care. I started documenting everything. Not just the reports I submitted, but their responses. I saved every email, every text message, every dismissive comment. I took videos of Machine 7 running, showing the vibrations and the loose parts. I didn't know why I was doing it. Some instinct told me I would need proof someday. That instinct saved my life. At home, my daughter Temi asked me why I looked so tired all the time. She was 8 years old, bright-eyed, and still believed her father could fix anything. "Just work, sweetheart," I told her. "But Daddy's okay." I wasn't okay. I was watching disaster approach in slow motion, and no one would help me stop it. In early April, a new intern joined our department. His name was Marco, and he was 22 years old, fresh out of technical school, eager to learn. Management assigned him to shadow me. "Show him the ropes, Kunle," Chijioke said. "Make him useful." Marco reminded me of myself 15 years ago, wide-eyed, hard-working, believing that loyalty and effort mattered. I saw my younger self in his enthusiasm, and it broke my heart. On his first day, I walked him through the entire plant. I showed him every machine, explained every safety protocol, emphasized every danger. When we reached Machine 7, I stopped him. "This machine is not safe," I said firmly. "Never operate it alone. Never bypass the safety guard. And if you hear anything unusual, shut it down immediately and call me."
Marco nodded seriously.
"Yes, sir. I understand." "I mean it, Marco," I repeated. "This machine has been reported as dangerous multiple times. Management knows. But until they fix it, we have to be extra careful." "I will, sir," he promised. I believed him. He was a good kid. Marco learned quickly. Within 2 weeks, he could handle basic repairs under supervision. He asked good questions and listened carefully. The other technicians liked him. But I noticed something troubling. Chijioke started assigning Marco tasks alone. Simple tasks at first, but gradually more complex ones. One afternoon, I found Marco adjusting bolts on Machine 7 by himself. My blood ran cold.
"Marco."
I called out sharply. "What did I tell you about this machine?" He jumped, startled. Sorry, sir. Mr. Chijioke said it was just a quick adjustment. I pulled him away from the machine. I don't care what Mr. Chijioke said. You don't work on Machine 7 alone. Ever. That evening, I confronted Chijioke. Sir, why are you sending Marco to work on Machine 7? I specifically told him that machine requires supervision. Chijioke barely looked up from his phone. He needs to learn independence, Kunle. You can't babysit him forever. It's not babysitting. It's safety. Stop being paranoid, he said dismissively. That machine has been running for months. Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened yet, I corrected. He finally looked at me, irritation clear in his eyes. Is there a reason you're wasting my time right now? I left before I said something I would regret. Friday, April 12th. I will never forget that date. Most of the staff had gone home by 6 o'clock. Marco and I stayed behind to finish a maintenance task on the packaging line. It was supposed to be quick, 30 minutes, maybe 45. Around 7:30, I stepped away to sign the completion logbook in the supervisor's office. I'll be right back, I told Marco. Don't touch anything until I return. Yes, sir, he replied. I was gone less than 5 minutes. I was walking back across the factory floor when I heard it, a sound that still wakes me up at night. A metallic snap, loud and sharp, followed immediately by a scream. Then the alarm, blaring.
Urgent.
I ran.
My heart hammered in my chest.
My legs moved faster than I thought possible. Please, no. Please, not Marco. Please, not Machine 7. But I already knew. Deep in my gut, I already knew. When I reached Machine 7, Marco was on the floor. His hand was trapped under the conveyor mechanism. Blood was everywhere. His face was white with shock and pain. Help me, he whispered. Please, sir. Help me. Everything happened in fragments after that. I hit the emergency stop. I called for help. I held Marco's hand while we waited for the ambulance, telling him he would be okay, that help was coming, that everything would be fine. But I didn't know if anything would be fine. The ambulance arrived. They took Marco away. His blood was still on my hands, literally on my hands, when management showed up. Mr. Okonkwo arrived first, his face tight with panic. Then Chijioke. Then the head of operations. They huddled together near Machine 7, talking in low, urgent voices. I stood apart, numb, staring at the blood on the floor. Finally, Mr. Okonkwo approached me. Kunle, what happened? I told him everything. How I had stepped away for 5 minutes. How I had warned Marco repeatedly. How I had submitted 3 reports about this exact machine. Mr. Okonkwo's expression didn't change. Where were you when the accident occurred? Signing the logbook. I was gone less than 5 minutes. But you were supervising him. You're the senior technician. Something in his tone made my stomach drop. Yes, but... We'll need to investigate, he interrupted. Don't discuss this with anyone. Go home. We'll contact you tomorrow. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. Beezy held me while I cried. This isn't your fault, she whispered. You warned them. You tried everything. But it felt like my fault. Marco was under my supervision. I should have been there. I should have refused to let him stay. I should have done something. At 3 a.m, my phone rang. It was Emeka. Kunle, I just heard. How is Marco? I don't know. They took him to the hospital. I haven't heard anything. There was a pause. Listen, brother. I don't know how to say this, but I heard management talking. They're planning to blame you. My chest tightened. What? They're scared. This is a serious accident. If labor inspectors investigate, they'll find all those reports you submitted. They'll see that management ignored safety warnings. The company could face huge fines, criminal charges even. So they're going to blame me instead. I'm sorry, brother. I just wanted to warn you. After I hung up, I sat in the darkness of my living room. And for the first time, I felt something besides guilt and grief. I felt anger. Saturday morning, I returned to the plant to collect my things, expecting the worst. On my desk was a white envelope. Official company letterhead. My name typed neatly across the front. This was the moment I described at the beginning. The query letter, the accusation, the betrayal. But this time, you know the full story. You know about the 15 years, the 847 hours, the warnings they ignored, the intern I tried to protect. I opened the envelope with steady hands. You are hereby issued a formal query for negligence resulting in severe injury to intern Marco Adeyemi. Your failure to follow proper safety procedures and adequate supervision endangered a life. You have 48 hours to respond. Disciplinary action pending. I read it 3 times. Then I did something I hadn't done in 15 years. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. A bitter, exhausted laugh that came from somewhere deep in my chest. They actually thought they could do this. They actually thought I would just accept it. I pulled out my phone and called Marco's family. His mother answered. Mrs. Adeyemi, this is Kunle from the plant. How is Marco? Her voice cracked. He lost 2 fingers. The doctors are trying to save the function in the rest of his hand. I closed my eyes. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mr. Kunle. Marco told me you warned him many times about that machine. He said you tried to protect him. Those words broke something open inside me. That Saturday, I went to my locker at the plant. In the back, behind my work boots and spare uniform, was a folder I had been keeping for months. Inside were copies of everything. 3 safety reports about Machine 7, dated and stamped. Email responses from Chijioke and Mr. Okonkwo dismissing my concerns. Photographs of the faulty machine components. Videos showing the dangerous vibrations. Text messages where I warned supervisors. Voice recordings of meetings where I raised safety issues. I also had documentation of something else. My overtime records. Every single hour, I had worked without pay. 847 hours over 5 years. I had kept all of this not because I expected betrayal, but because something inside me knew that one day, the company might try to sacrifice me to protect itself. That day had come. I made 3 copies of everything. 1 for my lawyer, 1 for the labor department, 1 for myself. Then I did something I had never done before. I called a lawyer who specialized in labor law and workplace safety. His name was Femi Adelik, and he listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Mr. Adeyemi, you have one of the strongest cases I've seen in years. Monday morning, I walked into the plant at exactly 8 o'clock. I wore my best shirt and carried a leather folder under my arm. Other technicians stared at me as I passed. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked away. Everyone had heard about the query letter. Everyone knew I was in trouble. I walked straight to the HR office. The HR manager, Mrs. Ojo, looked surprised to see me. Kunle, I wasn't expecting you until. I'm here to respond to my query letter, I said calmly. She gestured to a chair. Please sit down. I understand this is difficult. I didn't sit. Instead, I placed my folder on her desk. Before we begin, I need you to look at something. Her eyes went to the folder, then back to my face. Something in my expression must have warned her because her professional smile faltered. I opened the folder and began laying out documents, one by one. This is my first safety report about Machine 7, dated March 3rd, marked urgent. Mrs. Ojo picked it up. Her eyes scanned the page. This is the response I received from my supervisor, Chijioke. Will address when budget allows. Another document. This is my second report. March 17th, marked critical. Here's the response, noted. Another. This is my third report. March 28th. I hand-delivered this one to Mr. Okonkwo. He told me repairs were too expensive. Mrs. Ojo's face had gone pale. I wasn't finished. Machine 7 caused Marco's accident on April 12th, 5 days after my final warning. The exact machine I reported 3 times. The same machine management decided was too expensive to repair. I pulled out my phone and showed her the videos. The grinding gears. The loose safety guard. The dangerous vibrations. I recorded these because I knew something would happen. I documented everything because I knew the company would try to protect itself instead of its workers. Mrs. Ojo's hands trembled slightly as she looked through the evidence. Kunle, I wasn't aware of all this. Of course you weren't, I said quietly. Because management buried it. They ignored safety warnings to save money. And now they want to blame me to avoid responsibility. I placed one final document on her desk. This is from Marco's mother. He told her I warned him repeatedly about Machine 7, that I tried to protect him. He'll testify to that.
Mrs. Ojo looked up at me.
Her expression had changed. This wasn't sympathy. This was fear. I won't take responsibility for management's negligence, I said. Not anymore. What do you want, Kunle? I want the truth. I want an investigation. And I want justice for Marco. The investigation began that afternoon. Quietly at first. Management tried to keep it internal. But word spread fast. Other technicians heard that Kunle had evidence. That he had documented everything. That he wasn't backing down. Emeka came to me during lunch break. They're asking questions about Machine 7. About all the ignored reports. Good, I said. Some of the supervisors are panicking. Chijioke spent all morning in closed-door meetings. Other workers started approaching me. Not just technicians, but people from every department. They told me stories I had never heard. A warehouse worker who hurt his back lifting boxes without proper equipment. Management blamed him for improper lifting technique, even though he had complained about the heavy boxes for months. A quality control inspector who reported faulty products. She was fired for failing to meet quotas. A machine operator who requested safety training. He was told training was not in the budget. One by one, they came forward. Some gave me written statements. Others offered to testify. The company had been cutting corners for years. Ignoring safety, blaming workers, protecting profits. I wasn't the first person they tried to sacrifice. I was just the first one who fought back. 3 days after my confrontation with HR, Mr. Okonkwo called me into his office. His expression was different now. Less confident. More careful. Kunle, sit down. Please. I remained standing. He cleared his throat. We've reviewed your documentation. Your safety reports were thorough. They were ignored, I corrected. There were communication gaps, budget constraints, multiple factors. Marco lost 2 fingers because of your communication gaps. Mr. Okonkwo flinched. That's not fair, Kunle. This company has operated safely for years. One accident doesn't. One accident that I warned you about 3 times, I interrupted. One accident that could have been prevented if you had listened. If you had spent 350,000 naira on repairs instead of 15 million on the CEO's new SUV. His face turned red. How do you know about? I know everything, sir. I've been documenting for years. The unpaid overtime. The diverted maintenance funds. The ignored safety reports. All of it. There was a long silence. What do you want? He asked finally. I want the truth to come out. I want Marco compensated. And I want every worker in this plant to know they deserve better. The internal investigation couldn't contain what they found. When they started pulling files, the evidence was overwhelming. My 3 reports about Machine 7 had been marked urgent, but they were deliberately filed away. Maintenance funds allocated for safety repairs had been redirected to other projects. Email chains showed supervisors discussing how to manage my complaints without actually fixing anything. Chijioke had sent a message to another supervisor. Kunle is being dramatic about Machine 7 again. Just ignore him. The machine is fine. That message was dated April 10th, 2 days before Marco's accident. The investigation expanded. They found similar patterns across multiple departments. Dozens of ignored safety reports. Hundreds of hours of unpaid overtime. Workers who had been fired or disciplined for raising concerns. The Labor Department got involved. Then workplace safety inspectors. Then journalists. A reporter from a major Lagos newspaper called me. Mr. Adeyemi, we're running a story about workplace safety violations at Maxfield Manufacturing. We'd like your perspective. I told them everything. They published it on the front page. The headline read, After 847 hours of unpaid overtime, Worker blamed for company's negligence. It went viral. The company's response was swift and desperate. They suspended 3 supervisors pending investigation. They announced new safety protocols. They promised comprehensive reforms. But I knew better. These were reactions driven by fear of lawsuits and bad publicity, not genuine concern for workers. The CEO released a statement. We take workers' safety seriously. We're committed to learning from this incident and implementing necessary changes. The statement didn't mention Machine 7, didn't mention the ignored reports, didn't mention Marco by name. It was damage control. Nothing more. But something unexpected happened. Workers at other factories started speaking up. They shared similar stories. Ignored safety warnings. Unpaid overtime. Retaliation for raising concerns. My case had opened a door. Workers across Lagos were walking through it. A labor union contacted me. Mr. Adeyemi, we'd like to support Marco's case and help expose these practices. I agreed immediately. My lawyer, Femi, worked with the union to build a comprehensive case. Not just for wrongful accusation against me, but for negligence, labor law violations, and systematic exploitation. This is bigger than one factory, Femi told me. This is about changing how companies treat workers. The pressure mounted. Media coverage intensified. Labor inspectors conducted surprise visits to other Maxfield facilities and found violations everywhere. The government announced investigations. Politicians made speeches about worker protection. Advocacy groups organized protests. Through it all, I kept thinking about Marco. He was the real victim.
Not me.
I visited him in the hospital 3 weeks after the accident. His hand was bandaged and he looked smaller somehow. Younger. Mr. Kunle, he said when he saw me. His voice was weak but clear. They told me you got in trouble because of what happened to me. That's not your fault, Marco. But I should have been more careful. I should have listened better. No, I said firmly. You listened. I told you that machine was dangerous. You followed my instructions. What happened was management's fault, not yours. Tears rolled down his cheeks. I might not be able to work as a technician anymore. The doctors say I'll regain maybe 80% function. That's not enough for precision work. My throat tightened. Then we'll make sure they pay for your education.
You're smart, Marco.
You can do other things. Engineering.
Design.
Management. Whatever you want. You really think so? I know so. In May, the company made an offer. They would clear my name, reinstate me with full benefits, and provide a modest settlement for emotional distress. I read their proposal and laughed. The same bitter laugh from when I first opened the query letter. Modest settlement? I showed Femi the number. It was insulting. They're lowballing you, he confirmed. They know we have a strong case. They're hoping you'll take the easy way out. What do you recommend? We go to court. We expose everything. We get real compensation for you and Marco. And we force them to implement genuine reforms. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Let's do it. The trial lasted 4 months. The company brought expensive lawyers who tried to paint me as a disgruntled employee exaggerating safety concerns. But the evidence was overwhelming. My detailed reports. The ignored emails. The testimony from other workers. Video footage of Machine 7's deterioration. Expert witnesses who confirmed the machine was dangerous.
Marco testified.
His mother testified. Even some current Maxfield employees testified, despite pressure from management. The judge's ruling came on a Thursday afternoon. I sat in the courtroom, busy holding my hand, my children beside me. This court finds Maxfield Manufacturing guilty of gross negligence and systematic labor violations. The settlement was substantial. 12 million naira for Marco's medical care, rehabilitation, and education. 6 million for my unpaid overtime and damages. Additional fines for the company totaling 50 million naira. But the money wasn't the real victory. The court ordered Maxfield to implement comprehensive safety reforms across all facilities. Independent inspections every quarter. Mandatory safety training. Protection for whistleblowers. Fair compensation for overtime. The CEO was forced to resign. Mr. Okonkwo was fired. Chijioke was demoted and transferred. New management came in. They met with worker representatives. They actually listened to safety concerns. They started treating employees like people instead of production units. The case set a precedent. Other workers sued other companies. Labor laws were strengthened. Workplace safety became a national conversation. One man's refusal to be a scapegoat had started a movement. But I wasn't done. I had plans. The settlement money gave me something I had never had before. Freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to build something better. I started a consulting firm, Adeyemi Safety Solutions. My mission was simple: help companies treat workers with dignity while maintaining real safety standards. My first client? A competitor of Maxfield who wanted to prove they were different. 6 months after the trial, I stood in my new office overlooking Victoria Island. The sign on the door read exactly what I had imagined. Adeyemi Safety Solutions, protecting workers, exposing negligence.
My phone rang.
It was Marco. Oga Kunle, I just finished my physiotherapy session. The doctor says I'll regain 80% function.
And
His voice broke slightly. I got accepted into the engineering program at University of Lagos. Full scholarship from the settlement money. I smiled, my eyes burning with unexpected tears. That's wonderful, Marco. I'm so proud of you. I wouldn't be here without you, sir. You fought for me when everyone else wanted to forget. After we hung up, I looked around my office. At the business license on the wall. At the contract from my third client sitting on my desk. At the newspaper article framed beside my degree. Worker turned safety advocate changes industry. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Former Maxfield plant manager sentenced to 3 years for criminal negligence. Company ordered to pay additional fines. Justice wasn't just symbolic anymore. It was real. Concrete. Lasting. That evening, I picked up Temi from school myself for the first time in years. No emergency calls. No last-minute repairs. Just a father being present. She looked up at me with those bright 8-year-old eyes. Daddy, my teacher said you were on TV. She said you're a hero. I knelt down, my throat tight. Not a hero, sweetheart. I just stopped letting people treat Daddy like he didn't matter. That night, Beezy and I sat on our balcony watching Lagos's lights twinkle in the darkness. Our children were asleep. The house was peaceful. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Walking away from 15 years at Maxfield. I thought about it.
really thought about it.
No, I said finally. They took 15 years of my life. But fighting back gave me something more valuable. It gave me myself. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. I should have done it sooner. Should have stood up years ago. You did it when you were ready. That's what matters. I looked at the query letter, now framed on my wall, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a reminder of the moment I chose myself. The moment I refused to be sacrificed. Tomorrow, I would train safety officers at a new factory. Next week, I would testify at another labor case. Next month, I would expand my business. But tonight, I was just Kunle, a husband, a father, a man who had learned the hardest lesson of all, that loyalty only matters when it flows both ways. The company had taught me I was disposable, but in fighting back, I had discovered something they never wanted me to know. I wasn't disposable. I was irreplaceable, and that made all the difference.